Hey friends, out here in the Tetons and doing some final little testing on this Samyang 35-150 f2 to 2.8. Obviously that is a ridiculous thing. It's not a small lens, clearly, but that range combined with that aperture is just absolutely absurd. But how well does it actually do in practice? Let's find out. Now, that being said, this thing, it's just an absurd lens. It's one of those lenses that kind of mirrorless almost promised us, and I'm pretty excited that we actually have one. So 35, we get to, photograph at f2, which is nuts. And then you kind of start moving pretty quick there. So at 50, we're at like 2.5, so we're already moving up as soon as we get pretty close there. And at about 80-ish millimeters is where we switch over to f2.8. But you're basically getting almost everything in one lens. It's kind of the ultimate do-it-all lens. And its main selling point is that it just does everything in one lens. But that's kind of what you get out of a lens like this. So there's a little cabinish thing over there, and I'm just gonna show the absolutely absurd zoom range we have on this thing, especially on a camera like the Sony a7R5 that allows you to punch in to like an APS-C crop and still give you 26 megapixels, I think it is. So yeah, check this out, here we go. So here we are at 35, here is 150, and then if you punch in, it's just nuts. Now, I'll obviously also say that this thing is huge. It does have a lock on here because if you walk with it, the barrel will come down. So if you want to, walk around with this thing, you do need to lock it so that doesn't do that. But for like a travel landscape style lens, like this is absurd. All right, so you won't be able to see it, but all the way out here is a mountain. So let's see what we can get on this thing at 150 millimeters. Yeah, pretty crazy. All right, so a few things that I wasn't able to get to in that video, and one concern that I had that I think is solved, but just need to throw it out there, I guess. So I was having an issue with this lens where at 35 and at 150, it was pretty good. Like they were great. Especially at 35, I had zero issues. 150 was like good, usable, but I was getting this weird issue around the mid focal lengths, like 85, 70, stuff like that. Not enough that it ruined my images, but just enough that I was like, this is off. So this is actually a new lens because I sent my old one back to Samyang. They checked it out, said, yeah, there's something off. And I got a new one. So I have no idea what that means for future ones. I know that there is just a lot of glass in here. And I have heard that other Tamron ones have had a similar thing. I know friends of mine have just had issues with their Tamron one. So I think it's just the fact that this lens is so big, moves so much glass that there just could be issues with it. So just throwing that out there for what it's worth. But I will say that this new copy is sharp at all focal lengths, especially for a zoom range. Every focal length that I tested, I did a little lens test, and every focal length is sharp and pretty impressive, actually. So especially after kind of viewing all of these images, I didn't realize actually how many photos from that wedding that I really loved were made by this lens. So it kind of makes me think that while this definitely had a spot in my kit last year, obviously, it's definitely going to have maybe even a larger spot in my kit just because it has just incredible versatility. I could obviously easily photograph an entire wedding up until the party dancing stuff with this lens and be very happy with the results. So if you are someone that is interested in carrying around a large lens like this for a long wedding day, I'm definitely going to take this when I'm traveling for landscape stuff because I found it to work really well on those landscapes. So definitely just check out your copy if you get one, either of this or the Tamron one, I guess, and just make sure everything is aligned correctly. All of your focal lengths are sharp because this one is sharp at all focal lengths, which is amazing. So anyway, back to the Tetons. Now, as far as size goes, obviously this thing is large. It's not any bigger than like a 70-200, 2.8. So if you're kind of in that range, this is going to feel fairly similar. It definitely, it's a girthy lens. But that being said, I've definitely used it on full wedding days and just kind of tossed it to my side on a dual camera strap. And yes, it is significantly heavier than a prime lens, but if you're used to using zoom lenses, this isn't that far off of that whole, I guess, weight and size. But as you can see, especially not small, but for what it is fairly compact considering. It's got an 82mm filter thread, and its versatility obviously is the massive draw to this thing. But overall, I think this is a fantastic lens that does a lot of things well, but just the fact that you have that massive zoom range and especially the light gathering capabilities makes this, especially for travel, for wedding photographers, for event photographers, into something that could be super, super useful. It's definitely not going to be as good as like a L series prime or G Master prime or something like that. But for what it is and at the price point, I definitely think this is a fantastic thing to have in your bag. So thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions about this thing. Leave them in the comments down below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all on the next one.